It could get quite gusty at times as well. Now, as I said, much of the day could be dry across East Anglia and the southeast, but the rain is going to get in here later on. That can make for a pretty wet evening. And again, just something to bear in mind if you're heading out for a firework display. We'll see some clearer skies behind that, but we'll also see a few showers, and that's how Sunday then sets up. It's going to be a day of dodging the downpours with some pretty heavy showers in places, but either side of those heavy showers there will be some sunny spells. Heavier showers likely across southern parts of England and across Wales. Parts of eastern Scotland, northeast England may not see too many showers, and they should all be moving through because it will again turn quite windy, but yet again for the time of year it's going to be pretty mild. Goodbye.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
to each and every one of you
for helping our great nation
find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
on radio and online.
We're proud to be
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Hello, I'm Alastair Stewart, and I'd invite you to join me at noon on Saturdays and Sundays for Alastair Stewart and Friends. I've been in this business for over 40 years. Now, here at GB News, I've never been happier. I get to choose the big stories that really interest me. We hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. I really hope you can join me, noon on Saturdays and Sundays.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Good evening, I'm Tatiana Sanchez in the GB newsroom. A series of planned rail strikes has been suspended, but the government is warning there would still be significant disruption over the next few days. RMT members were due to strike for 3 days from tomorrow, but the union says it's secured the promise of a pay offer and is now entering a phase of intensive talks. Rail operators have welcomed the action being called off, but say the change of plan has come too late to reinstate services tomorrow. Downing Street says the number of asylum seekers at the Manston Migrant Centre has dropped to 2,600. At one point, as many as 4,000 people were being held at the facility in Kent, when it's supposed to have a maximum of 1,600. Number 10 says the Home Office is looking at what more can be done about capacity at the processing centre. A new energy scheme that pays households to cut their electricity use during peak times has been revealed. The new demand flexibility service, approved by energy regulator Ofgem, will launch next month and run until March next year. The National Grid says a typical household could save up to £100, but will need a smart meter to take part. The scheme is also being put into place to avoid blackouts this winter. Pakistan's former Prime Minister says he'll resume his anti-government protest despite yesterday's assassination attempt. Imran Khan, who was shot in the leg, says 2 gunmen were behind the attack, which killed 1 person and injured 11 others. It happened as he was leading a march on the capital, Islamabad, to demand early elections and the resignation of the Prime Minister. In the UK, the Prime Minister has said inflation is the #1 enemy as he vows to restore public trust in the government. Speaking to The Times, Rishi Sunak says he's doing everything he can to get a grip on inflation and limit rises in mortgage repayments. His comments come after a warning from the Bank of England that the country is facing its longest recession in a century. Meanwhile, Rishi Sunak has told a COP27 reception there'll be more human suffering if climate change continues to ravage the planet. King Charles hosted the event at Buckingham Palace, inviting more than 200 people, including business figures and environmentalists. The reception comes ahead of next week's summit in Egypt, which the King will miss, but Mr Sunak will now be attending after a U-turn. TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now it's over to headliners.
Thanks, Tatiana. I'm Mark Dolan, and this is Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's papers. Tonight, in the company of Josh Howie and brand new to the show, Matt Price. Brilliant to have both of you with me. Let's start now with a first look at tomorrow's front pages. And here's the Daily Mail. And they lead with Lucan left 3 Cluedo cards in car he dumped. Cryptic new clues in the Lord Lucan mystery can be unveiled by the Daily Mail today. Cluedo cards found by police at the time showing Colonel Mustard, the lead piping and the Hall. Almost 50 years after his family's nanny was found bludgeoned to death and with a lead pipe, it can be revealed that these 3 cards from the thickens. The Daily Telegraph, the Crown's in stealth tax raid. Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt plan to reveal a stealth tax raid on pensions later this month as they rush to balance the books and reassure the markets with a question mark hanging over that triple lock promise. Rail strikes called off, but archaic practices will linger on. Meanwhile, in the eye, cyber attack hits patient care as NHS records are left in chaos. FT weekend, Twitter job cuts begin as Musk warns of massive revenue drop. The Daily Mirror, shameless Hancock latest. He skipped Tory conference to film SAS show. Who could blame him? The Times now, state can't fix all your problems, says Sunak. Daily Express, ditch the triple lock and we won't vote Tory again, say voters. And Daily Star, Elon Musk fights the Daily Star lettuce. Twitter exec, will I get sacked before salad wilts? It's beyond belief. A new international lettuce war has broken out following the Star's Liz Truss challenge. A US Twitter worker is trying to outlast the veg before new boss Elon Musk fires him. And those are your front pages. Brilliant stuff. Lots of great stories to get through. Over to Saturday's Sun and one of the worst package holiday deals in recent times, Josh.
Yes. So Brits are amongst 70 tourists held hostage in Peru by a tribe. And it's pretty scary for them, I think. But what's happened is on this sort of river cruise, there was an oil spillage. It killed 2 of the members of this tribe, and then they have held people. And there's a pregnant woman, I think. There are kids, disabled people, old people. It's essentially sort of the Peruvian chapter of Extinction Rebellion.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like a shocker of a story, I've got to say. How about Saturday's Times? And our new Prime Minister is dropping some truth bombs.
Yeah, state can't fix all your problems, says Rishi Sunak. But I wouldn't mind if he fixed one or two, maybe.
Isn't this what we need from a Prime Minister? Some honesty for once.
Yeah, that is a good start. But he's in a very tricky situation, and he is admitting it. He's talking about the budget, which is going to be on November 17th, and that he's not really revealed any of the budget, but he's promising it's going to be compassionate. But essentially what he's saying is that there's a big scale of economic difficulties ahead for all of us. And he's going to do everything he can to get to grips with the problem. Of course, everything he can is not saying that he actually will get to grips with the problem. And he's actually in a very tricky dilemma here, because you've got rising interest rates, rising inflation, and to deal with one, you have to sort of do the stuff that's actually going to not affect the other. And that's his problem, is he needs to reassure the markets, and that's going to help one of those things, but it's not going to help the other.
Well, the medicine could kill the patient.
Exactly. So it's a very, very fine balance. It really is all, we're going to see in a few weeks when he releases this budget, how the market reacts, and to see what the future of our country is in a weird way.
Matt, it boils down to something very simple, which is that we're skint, aren't we?
That is accurate, actually, yes. And I was thinking, please fix one of the problems if you can, because, let's face it, his 2 predecessors have set the bar extremely low. So just sort us out with one.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think about this measured tone? The state can't fix all your problems. Is that an insult to people who are struggling, or is it a bit of tough love and a bit of honesty?
I think it's probably realistic.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about the role of the state? Because we've seen it expand massively in the last 2.5 years. Essentially, the government have paid us to sort of sit at home and bake banana bread and watch Netflix. So do you think that it's going to be a challenge to kind of snap us out of that idea that the government is there to look after us?
Do you know, I am just a regular bloke on the street, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think economics is an exact science by any means. Apologies to anyone who is an economist, because if it was an exact science, then surely they'd be able to get it more accurate.
But also, you raise a really interesting point, because, of course, there are expert economists out there, but as with COVID, some of the experts got it wrong.
Yes.
I mean, look at the Bank of England, who were clearly asleep at the wheel when it came to inflation. Why did they wait so long to raise interest rates? I just wonder whether this is a problem not only of the government's making. What do you reckon? The Bank of England. I mean, seriously.
It's his first time on here.
Yeah, but
look at you, mate.
I was told Matt was very good on macroeconomics.
Oh, it's my
microeconomics. Microeconomics.
Okay.
Macro.
Okay. Just time out for a second. All right. I'm delighted to be here. I'm a simpleton from Cornwall.
Definitely
I've got
not.
no interest whatsoever in
no.
economics. My dad studied economics at university, and I did philosophy, and I deeply regret that. But that's all I have to say about
a friend or whatever.
Listen, the bottom line is that we are in a bit of economic shtuck, but let's hope it gets better. On to the front cover of Saturday's Daily Mail and some very topical and current news, Matt.
Yes,
hot off the press.
Hot off the press. Well, I love this guy. This is about Lord Lucan. 3 Cluedo cards from the Aristocrats board game were discovered in his abandoned car. And it prompts a question of whether or not the murder of Sandra Rivet was planned because of 3 Cluedo cards. So from what I understand, Lord Lucan, he's something of a mystery man. We're talking a 50-year cold case. He went on the run. Is he alive? Is he dead? The police don't have any DNA, don't have any fingerprints.
Yeah.
Nobody really knows much about him. One of us could be Lord Lucan, from what I understand. I don't know, but basically the initial investigation they found...
I do think Josh has got an aristocratic air, hasn't he?
Absolutely, and he looks as though he'd bludgeon you to death with a... but I don't think... Am I allowed to say that?
Agreed, Dad. Well, you just did.
OK.
And rightly so.
My apologies.
But
you may not be an economics expert, but you're a good judge of character.
But it is interesting because this is from they reviewed the cold case like 20 years ago. This is the first time this information is coming out. But finding these 3 cards in the car that he made the getaway supposedly in, and it's a pipe that she was killed with a pipe. She was killed in the hallway, so it's from the hallway, and he also resembled Colonel Mustard. Yeah. So this is really the question is they really should have played Monopoly. Yes, that might have been a whole different outcome.
Or Twister, perhaps.
Twister might have led... Twister actually could inspire murder sometimes, to be fair.
Was it just the one murder as well? Because serial killers tend to leave things behind, because I think part of the thrill of being a serial killer is perhaps being found. I mean, you might better...
You've revealed rather a lot with that anecdote, Matt. I think we better move on.
OK.
Feeling scared now. What's that lead pipe doing on the table? Saturday's Guardian now, and some entrepreneurial spirit on display at the Manston Asylum Centre. Is this something we should be encouraging, Matt? Migrant chaos.
This is from the Guardian.
Rock and roll.
Absolutely, this is from the Guardian. Home Office contractors removed for trying to sell drugs at Manston Asylum Centre. Well, I have as much knowledge about this as I do of economics, to be honest with you, but I would say don't sell drugs. How about that?
Yeah, that would do it, wouldn't
that's
it?
probably not a bad start, although reading further into it, of course, the conditions there are appalling. They are.
So you think drugs are a good thing? I mean, like, to help them have some cannabis just might chill you out a bit?
Do you think? Well, I suspect that's the last thing we need. And what this does is it just adds another layer to what is a really bad news story for the government and for the country, Matt.
I absolutely agree with you.
I don't know about you, I blame the Bank of England.
I blame Lord Lucan. I think it's his fault, and I think that later on I am going to hit myself with a lead pipe.
The issue with migrants in hotels, and I think it's £7.5 million a day. This story, Matt, it is like a sort of slow political car crash for the government, isn't it?
Well, do you know what? All I see is people suffering. It's as simple as that. I read that there were... for me, as a wishy-washy liberal, all right, how can I not care? It has a capacity, the place, of 1,600 people. At one point, they had 4,000 people there.
Yeah.
So something needs to be done. I don't.
And I take very much take the human aspect of what you're saying. Others would argue that a good proportion of those people have entered the country illegally and have no right to be here.
And some people would say give them a spliff and let them chill out. So it's a difficult one, isn't it?
I don't know who would be stupid enough to ever say such a thing. But Stephen Kinnock, the shadow...
You say it here, it's a home of free speech, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. The shadow immigration minister has said... he pointed out something interesting. First of all, asylum claims have actually fallen by half since 2015. But, of course, the increasing waiting lists have gone up. And what he says here, if Labour get in power, we're talking about what solutions. Here's one. They would invest in an elite specialist unit in the National Crime Agency to crack down on the criminal smuggler gangs. That sounds like a pretty good idea. It sounds like a solid idea. And you ask yourself, well, why isn't there such a unit already in existence? Because it is, if it is such a big problem, which it is.
Yeah, it's my impression, Josh, that this story has now entered the mainstream, that it's not on the fringes of the political debate, and that voters out there are now condemning what's happening openly, and they're not afraid of being called racist, because for most right-minded British people, the unedifying sight of 1,000 people landing on our shores every day is just unacceptable.
Yeah, but also it's how the government are dealing with these people. Herding 4,000 people into a space that's only meant to be for 1,500, including children who and there are diseases, diphtheria.
Small proportion of those who come are women and children.
But they're still housed in this
40% Albanian men. How do we stop these people?
Well, look, because there is a problem there. Well, we've got three issues here. Number one is this is one thing that isn't being mentioned. We do need immigration. We need low...
But not this way.
No, not this way.
Especially
But before, we used to have a system, there was this thing called the EU, and people would come in legally and work and do these working on building... Yeah, but that's the problem is that, and Liz Truss was trying to sort this out, and this was part of the tension between her and Suella Braverman, is that Liz Truss was saying, look, we do need immigrants to come in.
You can't complain, but that's different. That's to do with changing the visa
rules. Yeah, but a lot of these Albanians aren't coming here to deal drugs or whatever. A lot of them are coming here to work in our building trade.
How do you know that? We don't have paperwork.
I heard an interview on Radio 4.
Oh yeah, that would do it. OK, well look, it's an interesting debate. It will certainly run and run. Saturday's Telegraph now, and school places, Josh.
Well, this is terrible, and this sort of goes back to what we were just saying. Let me just say the title. This is Telegraph. Schools run out of places for local children after migrant surge. This is families in Kent are told that 11 and 13-year-olds have to be bused to towns 25 miles away. Now, that is wrong, and this goes to part of what we were talking about, which is I'm not saying that immigration in and of itself is a good thing, but certainly the way that this government, and has been now in charge for 12 years, has dealt with immigration, that is bad. And one of the things they're doing...
Would Labour have been any stricter?
Well,
I doubt it.
But here you've got Tory MPs, because these are all Tory areas that these people have been sent to, complaining to their own government, and part of what they're doing is they're just basically, because this all kicked off this big furore because the Guardian did this big investigation into the area, they've sort of basically just kicked out as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, taken over these Holiday Inn hotels, basically bought them out.
Haven't they suffered enough?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Lenny Henry's there.
I mean, it's not even a cooked breakfast.
I've stayed. I like it.
Sorry, a croissant is not breakfast.
Good Holiday Inn. But they've done it without warning. So there's no coordination between anybody. So the actual local authorities can't deal with this sudden influx of people, and it is having a detrimental effect. And certainly when you read about students not being able to go to school in their area or near their home, that has like a real impact.
Well, yeah, Matt, the idea of a 25-mile school run is unimaginable, isn't it, for parents and for the kids?
Unless the kids want a career in logistics, yes.
Correct. So. Potential HGV drivers in the making.
What's the long-term help then offered to people when they come over here? Because it's all very well saying that people shouldn't be over here, but if someone is seeking asylum in the UK, illegally or otherwise, what's the long-term goal of that? Because I mean, is the plan to stay here until such a time as they can leave and go safely back, or do something else?
Well, I suppose what you do is you process their application, which means if they've got a right to stay, they stay, and you offer support, and then they have health, they're getting access to the NHS, and of course they get maybe job seekers allowance and all the rest of it. So you include this person who becomes a Brit. The issue is the source of these illegal crossings. I think that's the issue, is to get that number down, because they'll never catch up with the asylum applications if 1,000 people are coming every day. That's the point, isn't it?
Okay.
Because I think answering your question, what happens is people are here now, I think, for the most part. But the question is, how sustainable is this? I mean, it's all very well being, a lovely, liberal, fluffy, I'm a nice person about it. This is £7.5 million a day to accommodate people in hotels.
Well, like you say, though, what actions are being taken to prevent these crossings?
Right.
Yeah. I'm saying, the Tory government...
cooperation of the French...
Well, but the Tory government hasn't taken the steps necessary to stop it.
Taken more steps than Labour has recommended.
But they have... That's ridiculous.
The Rwanda plan is meant to be a big disincentive. Labour voted against it.
Yeah, but that's not stopping those boats coming over.
Also, the government have drawn up legislation to stop loopholes, and Labour voted against that as well.
But again, that's not stopping the boats coming over.
Well, it's meant to be a disincentive.
Well, it might be, but that's not stopping those boats coming over.
It's to break their business model. They're trying to do something. What's
Labour's
plan? What's Labour's plan?
I just told you what their plans is. Their plan is to set up a crime agency.
Open the borders.
No, why do you say things like that? That's, of course, not their plan. They also acknowledge that there's a problem here, but they are trying to give concrete ththings. One of the things that Stephen Kinnock has recommended is a special task force specifically to stop the people bringing over, the criminals bringing over the gangs. That hasn't been recommended or imposed by the Tory government.
Can we agree, Matt, though, that this issue will be a factor in the outcome of the next election?
I wouldn't like to put any money on anything that's going to happen in the next election, because to be honest with you, politicians will say anything, won't they?
But I'm asking about the public. Do you think this will matter to the public in 2 years' time?
Okay, so if will
it be bearing on their minds when they make their choice?
So you're asking me then, if politicians say, right, we're going to deal with immigration by not allowing people to come over, is that it? Will that get them more votes?
What I want to ask you is, do you think that the public will be concerned about this issue at the next election?
They're always concerned about it as an issue, but it's a very difficult one to broach, isn't it? Because I understand that there's only a limited amount of money and resources for people to come over. However, I would like to think, just at a human level, that if I was seeking asylum, I would be able to go somewhere and be safe.
But it's the people who have no right to asylum who are...
But how do you determine... Okay.
Well, such as the 40% of people crossing this summer were Albanian.
Yeah, but
none of them have a claim to asylum.
How do you determine who has a right and who doesn't then?
Because if they're leaving a country that hasn't had war for 25 years, which is Albania, they shouldn't be here.
I also wonder
Do we welcome
as well.
them?
No, I agree with you, but there is also the case that we also need low-paid workers to do those jobs that British people aren't doing.
Well, then we encourage people to break the law, get more.
No, we don't. But I'm just saying. But those
dinghies.
channels that were open before, when we were part of the EU,
I don't think
that's how they came over.
The two.
Well, of course we can conflate the two. They're coming over to work.
Well,
there
do
are
we know
jobs.
that? What about the criminal?
Well, we do know.
What about those who are
that.
connected to criminal gangs? And how do we know the difference?
Okay, well,
Drug
not
dealers,
everybody is
human trafficking.
That exists, but that's a small part of it. But the bulk of people are coming here because they have work available to them. And
really?
Yes, really.
On what authority do you have that about people crossing the channel that are Albanian?
The country has been emptied out because there's work available in this country for building, for working in fruit picking or whatever.
In the black economy, will they be?
I'm not saying that isn't a part of it, but there are people. No, of course not. That's the thing. Yeah, and then the money comes over.
Sweatshops and God knows what else. Is that good? Do we want that?
No, that's not good. But we do need legal, cheap immigration.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fact.
Sure. OK, and on that we can definitely agree, because there's clearly a link between rates of migration and economic growth, which was a debate between Suella Braverman and our last Prime Minister, Liz Truss. Interesting debates from Matt and from Josh. Lots more to come in part 2. We've got Matt Hancock's foray into the wilderness, both literally and metaphorically, the English National Opera going national, and how much Qatar are bribing English fans to pretend to have a good time at the World Cup. See you there in 3.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
On Mark Dolan tonight, we have a simple plan, which is to inform, stimulate, and entertain in equal measure. It's all about getting your opinions on the national television airwaves. I love my viewer emails, mark@gbnews.uk. So do join me every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for big guests, big opinions, and a big presenter. 6'5", don't you know? See you then on GB News.
Join me, Arlene Foster, for The Briefing on GB News. Every Friday at 3 p.m, I'll give you all the latest political news and analysis, and we'll have robust live debate. To make sure that you're caught up on all of the biggest issues of the day, we'll bring on experts in their field. I'll ask the questions that you'd like to ask. We're not afraid to tackle discussions from all perspectives, including yours. Don't forget, The Briefing with me, Arlene Foster, every Friday at 3 p.m. on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Let's go to Saturday's Guardian and talk about the baffling wonder that is Matt Hancock, Josh.
Yeah, Matt Hancock could be set for life after I'm a Celebrity, says ex-MP. It was revealed on Wednesday that he's going to be the new one of the new people going into the show. And if he plays his cards right, he will make lots of money and have a book out. I think he's already got a book coming out. And could maybe marry Katie Price.
Inevitably.
Yeah, that's what you do when you go on the show.
Become a pop star.
I mean, I don't think that's going to make me watch it.
No. I mean, it's an interesting one. I spoke to the showbiz agent Jonathan Shalit earlier, and he said Hancock can make £1 million a year for the next 5 years.
Wow. And he could have done that just by sort of selling favours to his friends. If only he'd stayed in government.
If only. Matt, Allegedly. Nicely recovered. Matthew, what do you think? Would you go into the jungle?
Would I go into the jungle? Absolutely. I'd do it cheaper than he would as well.
Yeah.
Of course I would.
It'd be a lot more entertaining.
I'm a nobody, keep me in here. But just pay me some money.
He will boost the ratings, won't he, though?
It depends. Do you know, I think he comes across as a very vain man, and it's very easy to throw around terms like, oh, he's a narcissist or has narcissistic personality disorder, but I think he is. I don't think he cares about anybody. Just judging by his behaviour and what I've sort of Googled about narcissism, and I think the best way to defeat a narcissist is to ignore him. And basically, the best way to do it is if...
So put him on Channel 5?
We could put him on Channel 5. Absolutely, you could. I would say... Anybody who watches that programme who doesn't like Matt Hancock, just decide, no, he's on there.
But they might want to see him eat bugs.
Well, they might, but it's not really much punishment, is it? I think he's the kind of guy who enjoys it. He just enjoys the attention. He's keeping his day job, remember?
Well, he has lost the whip, but I didn't realise that he'd already filmed, suppose he's hurt his foot, shooting this celebrity SAS thing. So, how much work has he actually been putting into his constituency? If he's managed to film
he's given
already
up.
A reality
He's basically
show.
thrown the towel in with his political career, hasn't he? He's made a calculation which is that he's going to make some money, get his profile up, and then in 2 years there's an election. He does not run for the current constituency that he serves, and he becomes a celebrity.
Which is failing that he's still got 2 years in his job. He's just to give up like that. It's not fair on them. They voted him in to represent them.
Is he a bankable star? I mean, will people want to buy his books and watch him on TV in years to come?
You never know, because we don't know. All we've seen is the video footage of him snogging someone behind a door.
Yeah.
Let's see who he snogs or not on this TV show.
And the great British public love a villain, don't they? They love to hate people like the nasty Nick of politics. Remember the guy on Big Brother? Everybody loved to hate the guy. So maybe that's who Matt Hancock is.
Well, there you go. From one artistic endeavour to another. And Saturday's Times next. The English National Opera is going national, Matt.
Yes, it is. The Times say English National Opera forced out of London amid arts cuts. And they get, it sounds like a ridiculous amount of money to me, £12.5 million annual subsidy. And now there's an emergency fund in place so that they can take the arts to outside of London.
Yeah, I think they're moving to Manchester, aren't they? They're going to keep their London venue, which is the Coliseum, but they'll be headquartered in Manchester. That sounds, I guess, like levelling up.
Levelling up?
Levelling up! Sorry. Apologise for my opera.
I hope that goes...
That was opera.
Are you auditioning?
Yes, always.
Very good.
Get me out of here.
Can we put that on TikTok? Because that was great.
Thank you so much. The beautiful voice.
What do you think about art funding? Is it necessary, Josh?
Absolutely, to be subsidised. But they're getting 17 million to make this move, so it's not like they're not getting any money.
Yeah.
There are other places in London. I mean, there is a debate here. Of course, times tough, so arts funding is being cut. That's one of the things. But then that has a long-term impact. One of the things that sells the UK around the world. Our soft power is within our arts, our music, our theatre, our television, and places like Hampstead Theatre, the Gate Theatre in Notting Hill, and specifically the Donmar Warehouse, which Sam Mendes came from and used to run.
Who directed the Bond movies?
He directed the Bond movies. All of those, you know, when they lose that grassroots funding, that can have a long-term impact on the next generation of playwrights and artists.
Why can't the market decide? Why can't they pay their way? If they were putting on great productions, wouldn't people buy tickets?
Unfortunately, the market doesn't cover every single thing, and some of these productions, they just cost more than they make back. And there is the need to fail in art, and that's another big point, is you have to, some things will be a massive success and go on and change the world and change how people think, and some of them will be rubbish.
The need to fail in art, something I've been mastering for years. Let's stay with the times, and doctors are about to hand out some novel prescriptions, Josh.
Yeah, NHS to prescribe video games for anxious children. This is what I've been doing with my kids for years now. It's just
and your wife?
Yeah, well, just guys, please just go on the iPad. And, so these games are, one of them is called Lumi Nova, and you travel around the galaxy. And but they're not just offering these games; they're offering computers, also text messaging service with therapists. So it's going to be, I imagine, tell me about your mother, smiley face, aubergine, if you know your Freud. And look, there is a crisis in mental health funding. Supposedly the number of children, it's gone from 1 in 6 anxious children to 1 in 9 to 1 in 6 over the last few years. I'm imagining that's also including the effects of lockdown. And there's just not enough therapists and funding to actually deal with it. And that was before sort of 2019. This sounds like an interesting idea and a way of at least allowing more children to have access to some sort of caring. But the question is it effective? And I think that's what they're going to be finding out and studying. And if it is, I really do hope it is. Otherwise, it's just going to be back on the drugs.
Yeah, too right. Matt, what do you think about this story?
I think it's great that they're raising awareness of anxiety with kids. Video games, no, I don't agree with that at all. I think that I was brought up by my grandparents, actually, and it's very easy to be brave with other people's welfare. I do understand that. Yeah. But what's wrong with the great outdoors? What's wrong with actually speaking to kids and reassuring them and dealing with it that way? So you can destigmatise mental health, but you don't do it by inventing a video game, in my opinion.
Well, the problem is that there's just not enough therapists to go around at the moment.
But who needs therapy, though? Do you really need therapy? Is everything a mental health issue? Yeah. And I mean that with love. And people do suffer with anxiety, of course they do. But not everything is an extreme mental health issue. Sometimes you just need an ice cream and to be plonked in front of the telly.
Now you're talking. Amen to that. More novel medical cures, this time from Saturday's Mail. Matt.
I feel blessed, I really do. Forget antibiotics, the Daily Mail say. Try maggots. First World War wound therapy is making a comeback on the NHS in fight against superbugs.
All crumbs.
Amazing. A DIY approach to healthcare. It's cheap. You could rummage through your bins. If you're wounded, just slap them on and Bob's your uncle. One of the concerns seems to be, an expert said, nurses might be squeamish.
Right.
And I can't help thinking, do they not see worse things than maggots in A&E on a Friday night? I can only imagine.
Yeah.
And it's not as simple as that. You don't just, you could do it at home, but the actual treatment is that you get the maggots, you put them in a net, and then you apply it. So no one's going to be...
It's kind of amazing. They're actually better than drug treatment. They eat the dead tissue. They secrete antimicrobial molecules that actually fight and stop infection. So it's not only are they cheap, but the fact is they're more effective.
Yeah.
And this is a great step, and it's just going to be about educating nurses and making them feel comfortable using this treatment, and the other positive is, as it says here, is that it fights the superbugs, because they're saying that people who are becoming, as antibiotics stop working because people have been using them too much, that's going to have a long-term massive impact, possibly worse than even things like COVID and climate change and whatnot. because simple diseases, people will then die.
Yeah,
if
indeed.
if they're stopping people from taking antibiotics and using this kind of treatment instead, it seems like a win-win. It's fantastic.
Have you ever had small creatures nibbling your wounds?
Well, I have 5 children, as you know, so...
Yeah. Each to their own. Let's move on now to Saturday's Sun newspaper. And has this story about English fans being spies. Well, has it got any legs, Josh?
Well, it's an interesting one. England fans being paid shady backhanders to be spies in Qatar with free tickets and orders to sing for TV cameras. Obviously, Qatar hosting the World Cup. They are very anxious about their public image. The Guardian did a study, investigation last year showing, I think it was 6,500 migrant workers died during the building of the stadiums. And seems like one of their little PR exercises is to pay about 40 English fans and also other fans from different countries to essentially bribe them and also make them sign something saying that they'll follow the rules. They're also saying that they'll report any behaviour or social media posts that sort of essentially spying on other fans. I did listen to an interview today by someone who'd signed up to the scheme or a slightly different version of it and had said essentially that that's not true and they hadn't signed anything and whatnot. So they might be making a little bit here, extrapolating maybe a little bit too far. But still, there's no doubt that Qatar... I mean, they're paying David Beckham, I think, £1 million, is it, or something, to be their ambassador.
I think a bit more than that.
Is it more than that? Wow, it's crazy.
I've heard a figure of in the tens of millions.
Wow. Well, he's worth it. He's a wonderful... he's got that stubble. That's what I model myself on. That's what people say to me in the street. Hey, David.
Yeah, well, I've always thought of you as golden balls.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, maybe slightly greying balls, but...
Grey balls.
Balls none the same.
Thank you.
Now, Matthew, this is an interesting one. I mean, are you a football fan?
Oh, absolutely. I love football. I'm a Plymouth Argyle fan.
I thought you said you loved football.
No, I made that up just so I could fit in with the boys. I absolutely hate football.
Just to keep in with the macho mood that Josh and I have set.
Absolutely. There's a lot of... It's a lead pipe.
Testosterone.
Do you know what I love about this?
Is that what they do? I don't know. Is that how...
If I'm scaring me now, someone call security.
If I was a football fan, I would, human rights aside and all that, and Qatar, the public image aside, I would love this. It says the camera will focus on each national fan group in turn. We will share with you the chant and the song selected from your country. If somebody paid me, because it says paying flights as well, and gave me 500 quid in cash, I would actually do this now. I would go over there, flights, hotel, all right, for a couple of days, chuck in a bit of food, 500 quid. I will happily sing, wrapped in an England flag, You're Going Home in the back of an ambulance. I would happily do that.
You know what would be good was if they all started kissing each other when the cameras came to them and all the blokes turned around and started snogging each other. That would be cool.
The problem is they could die.
It would still be pretty cool.
Yes, it would be certainly viral video central. Matthew, briefly, do you think that this World Cup in Qatar is an accident waiting to happen?
Well, I don't think there'll be any hooliganism. Because I think if there's any hooliganism, something bad will happen to them.
Yeah. Every cloud has a silver lining.
And as for the PR, how do you change the PR of a country with such an appalling record? I don't know. Do you mean... And as for a sporting spectacle, people will tune in. They always do.
They will. They will indeed. Well, look, I hope you'll tune in next because we've saved our best till last. I think you'll agree that Josh and Matthew are on fire tonight. Part 3 beckons. And coming up, we've got the latest on Elon Musk's clear out of Twitter. We'll find out what anxiety is. And these two will attempt to settle the age-old question, how often should you clean your pants? See you in 3.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Are authorities, are communities doing all they can to combat violent crime? With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akua, on Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today.
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank and, of course, fun. Every Friday, Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Every Saturday at 2 o'clock, join me, Darren Grimes, for Real Britain. I'm not afraid to give you a platform and say it how it is.
Come on, make the case. Something like this is very, very important to people.
And we're always up for a laugh on this show.
God, honestly, you'd think there were no problems in the world.
Real Britain, every Saturday on GB News.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
for helping our great nation.
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland,
Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV.
on radio.
And online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel. Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's papers. I'm still Mark Dolan. He is still Josh Howie, and I hope he is still Matt Price.
Yep.
Hey, Matt, how's your first go on Headliners?
I'm actually thoroughly enjoying myself. Thank you very much.
I think you're owning it. In fact, I think you're doing something too well.
Just you know.
And I think
please,
what you're doing is talking us out of a gig, isn't he? Don't you reckon?
That is very.
His dad's watching.
Yeah.
Well, Pops will be happy. So there you go. You've done a great job.
Can I say hello to my dad then?
Well, I think you should. I think you'd be remiss not to.
Okay.
He gave the world your good self, Matt Price, and therefore we thank him for that. Saturday's Express now, and apparently Elon Musk has bought Twitter. I haven't heard much about this, Matt. What's going on?
Oh, I don't know either, actually, but thankfully I have my notes in front of me. It's basically, the Express has said, this is messed up. Musk raging at Twitter backlash as firm's revenue plummets. It's activists who've been pressurising advertisers, so he's concerned that the value of... He paid $44 billion for it. The value of Twitter has gone down. To be honest with you, if you're going to spend that much money on something, I'm guessing that wasn't all his life savings. I'm guessing he has...
He's still got about 150 billion somewhere.
So there we go. So you can actually afford to kind of lose some money. He could afford to sell it to me for a $5 or something, and it wouldn't make any difference. I'm guessing. You don't make that much money.
I think you're quite right. You're right to touch on the money, Matt, because he tweeted only 29 minutes ago, because he's on Twitter as well, you know that. And he said, regarding Twitter's reduction in workforce, unfortunately, there's no choice when the company is losing $4 million a day. And we've heard about an advertiser boycott since he purchased the social media giant.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, so what a lot of people are saying under his original tweet is it isn't activists, it's actually his actions that have driven advertisers to pause their spending money on the site. A few things have happened. First of all, I agree that Twitter had a problem with free speech in terms of shutting down certain voices, but there's been a 500% rise in the use of racial slurs on the site since he took over. He's now fired most of that department that would deal with these kind of complaints. He's shared a conspiracy theory about the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband from like an absolute fake news website. And he reinstated Kanye West, who is just constantly just dripping out anti-Semitism all the time. So these are other factors. And then this other idea that this $8 a month for a blue tick, which people have kind of ridiculed. And there's arguments that he doesn't really seem to understand Twitter, what makes it good. And the reason why we're on it is because there is a community of experts and people and journalists and politicians, and to take away the verification process in terms of just replacing it with who can afford this $240 a year or whatever, is going to challenge that, and it's going to take away reasons people for being there. So all of those factors, he could say it's activists, and we have seen it. We've seen activists affect this channel before this channel even started. Yeah. People were saying, let's get these advertisers and scare them and whatever. And so that can have an impact on free speech. Unfortunately, the channel is here, and we are saying what we want to say, which is fantastic, and advertisers are coming back. But that can have an impact. I'm just not 100% sure if that's what's happening here.
Although if there are brands like Audi who are boycotting Twitter because it's going to let everyone have a view, doesn't that mean that these companies, Matt, are against free speech?
Against free speech? Well, can he not find other advertisers? Is that not an easier way of doing it?
Well, I suppose that might be, but does it bother you that corporations are getting involved in how a platform is being run? Surely it's none of their business. They either advertise on it or they don't. Because I think all Musk is trying to do is open the platform up to more views. So, for example, we've had, renowned medics who have been permanently suspended by Twitter simply for sharing government statistics and data around COVID. So-called misinformation. Alex Berenson, the brilliant US journalist, took Twitter to court because they suspended his account permanently. He said, look, all I'm doing is quoting official government statistics about the virus, and they had to reinstate him.
But that's what the problem is, that people were so optimistic, including myself, about what he would do, and having someone in there advocating for free speech. But what that isn't meant to be is just now a carte blanche for people to be as racist as possible.
Yeah, sure.
And not to curtail that in any way, to invite racists back to being racist on Twitter, and to also, like he said, he himself 48 hours ago spreading a conspiracy theory.
Yeah. So perhaps he's overcorrected the other way, but we don't want to go back to the old Twitter, do we?
We don't, but let's hope that he can sort out what he's meant to be doing.
OK, yeah, fair point. Good luck to him. More power to him. More billionaire shenanigans now. This in the Mail. Josh, what's happening?
So a hedge fund billionaire, Chris Rockos, he's made $509 million over the last year. He needs an iPad butler to help his family look after their Apple iPhones and tablets and other gadgets. I think that sounds like a brilliant job. That is my job. That's my day job. I come out here in the evening, but in the day, that's what I'm doing, is I'm charging up iPads and phones, getting ready for the kids to come home, just so I can dump them on.
Well, in fairness, full disclosure, I've helped you with your devices, because you always ask me to erase the history, don't you?
Yes. Specifically, like the 1 hour history.
It takes absolutely hours.
Yeah, just to go through it all. There's a lot of...
Do you remember that time when your laptop wasn't working? I said, I'll take it to PC World. You're like, no, don't.
Yeah, and I accidentally dropped it. Yeah, they were good times. So this sounds like a pretty good job. I mean, look, these people, these billionaires, they don't have time to, coordinate to download an app and upfresh things and find their iPad and whatever. They need someone to put the channel on for them. So that's how they spend their money. To be fair, this person actually paid the second highest amount of income tax in Britain. He paid $300 million to the Treasury after collecting $509 million. So he still had a couple of $100 million left. but he did pay a lot of money for taxes and stuff. And reading through what they're asking, they need someone with a 2-1 degree from a Russell Group. This is for their iPad butler. 3 years of relevant working experience, able to liaise and collaborate with a wide range of corporate and personal staff members, i.e. his little children. And just for me, it's just like tick, 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 tick. This sounds like a brilliant job. And for that, you get 40 grand a year, Chelsea flat. I'm in.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Call me if you can figure out how to use your phone.
Do you require a digital butler, Matthew?
No, I don't, and I wouldn't want that job either. I used to work in IT, and it drove me up the wall. It's terrible. It sounds really glamorous. It's not, I promise you.
Yeah. Okay, I take it back.
Because
I quit.
No, because it looks great, and would you want to live in Chelsea?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
All those
you haven't seen my flat.
Thanks, but no thanks. The Mail once again, and a perennial debate now about worthwhile university courses. Matt.
Well, is there a degree in current affairs? Because I could have done with it, couldn't I? So the Daily Mail, fifth of bar staff went to university, which is fueling fears that modern-style degrees are worthless in the world of work, a study shows.
Oh, dear.
I know. I did a degree in philosophy. And my first job was working in a call centre.
Who knew?
I know.
I did anthropology. I spent a year working in a bar.
Wow.
Until Mark came in one evening drunk and sort of went home with him, and the rest is here I am today.
The rest is history. Possibly the most important debate of our time now from Saturday's Mirror. Josh.
Cleaning expert says we're all washing our pants far too often, praises the 2-day wear, but using something called a panty liner or something like that, keeping your pants fresher. I mean, look, I've been on this pair for about 6 weeks now. I haven't noticed any problems. I don't know if you can smell anything.
Well, you're positively humming.
Thank you.
Got to say.
Thank you
I don't
so
want
much.
to wash your boxer shorts, I want to shoot them.
You want to wear them. You want to be in them.
You've got antibacterial maggots in there now.
Yeah, but then that's what they're doing their job. So it's wonderful. So that's an interesting idea. This is from the woman Aggie McKenzie. She does that. How clean is your house?
Love it.
And as times are getting tougher and people using their washing machines less, this is one way to do it. Also, she says, don't wash kids' clothing as much because they don't smell really. So you just spot clean their stuff. It's a good idea. I'm going to start doing that.
Not a bad idea. Let's power through a couple before we go onto the Metro, and let's all learn a new concept, Josh.
What's actually happening in your brain when you it's called hangxiety. I don't know if the audience can tell as I slur certain words, but I am actually a little bit hungover myself from last night. And this is a mixture of being hungover and anxious. And essentially, this is, I don't know why a scientist needs to, Dr. Neil Campbell is basically saying, when you're hungover, you get anxious because, I can't even think properly to say what this is. But
alcohol's a depressant, isn't it?
It's a depressant.
So you have a great time on the night, but then it's
you're dehydrated, and this is even just having 4 pints can bring on this state. You get tremors, nausea, intense anxiety, basically describing my day.
Hangxiety, Matt?
Hangxiety, remedy it with the hair of the dog, should I say that? I mean, really, it's just part of drinking. I have sympathy for people, but really...
I think you're absolutely right. I think a couple of glasses of GB News red wine would go down a treat right now. How about our next story? An intriguing and mysterious tale from Saturday's Daily Star. Josh.
Metal detectorist chances upon buried box of vintage porn. And this is the bit we don't need at this time. With pages start, come on, Daily Star, you're better than that.
Are they?
Yes, they're they're
Why would the pages be stuck together?
The humidity of it's been a very hot summer, and
is that what happens?
That's what I've read.
I've seen pictures. Why are the pages that sort of expanded as well?
Are you talking about your wife's collection?
Maybe.
Of erotic novella. So I don't know how you would find porn mags with a metal detector. That's the bit that seems slightly strange to me. He says that he buried it in a rabbit hole. I think he kept it. Someone offered him like 100 quid. I mean, I've said this before, I truly believe that our society would be better if they bring back porn mags. For instead of all this online porn...
They look quite innocent by the comparison.
That's what I'm saying. Instead of this online porn, bring back porn mags.
No man worth his weight likes to throw away pornographic materials.
Dad's watching. His dad's
20
watching.
minutes ago, you said hello to my dad. If you think I'm actually going to look down that camera now and say anything porn-related to my dad, please think again.
You realise your dad sat there nodding his head going, I know exactly what they're talking about.
Do you know what? My dad is my hero. Absolutely adore the guy. But it's, basically, father and son, they're walking through the woods with a metal detector and they don't find any metal. They find some...
This is a bit of a red flag.
Who goes to the press?
Well, look, there you go. Let me say, what a brilliant debut from Matt Price, as Mr. Price's son, and the brilliant Josh Howie as well. We don't know who his dad is. We are back tomorrow. In fact, Andrew Doyle presenting with Sajila and Toby, and I'm back at 8 for Mark Dolan's Big Night In.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9